Welcome to Novi's favorite and number one podcast, Now You Novi. Welcome back, my favorite assistant city manager.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be back.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You know, I think the last time you were on, we chatted about internal changes we were making with Novi Next and, just actually, looking at staff and valuing their talents maybe and harnessing that and trying to move forward the organization from an internal perspective.
Yes.
Today we're here talking about moving forward externally from a different perspective.
Yes.
So look at you, always moving forward.
You know me, I'm always a few steps ahead. No, I think that's an interesting point you bring up because last time we talked about our values, one of which being commitment. And that value is really born out of kind of the high level of service we provide to our citizens. And I think what we're going to talk about today is a great segue in how that internal value ties into our external work and what we're going to be doing as a city to ensure that we can continue with that commitment into the future.
It's so exciting because I think I've been at Novi for 23 years and Novi has always been known and has had pride in being a leader, right? Be it in public service, in schools, in safety, and we just went through winter, snow clearing. How many people post on social, I knew when I hit Novi, the roads were clear. Always being the best, striving to perform the best, deliver quality services. And we're going to talk a little bit about some work directors and city council did last night for that vision of what Novi wants to be. I don't want to say when we grow up because we just had our 50th anniversary, but in the future, 25 years ago, if council and leaders got together, would they have projected or predicted where we are in 2025? So what we're talking about is what Novi looks like in 2050, right?
Yeah.
So it's crazy, right?
It is crazy to think about. And I think, so kind of some context for why we're thinking about 2050. We are undertaking an effort to create a long-range strategic plan that Mayor Pro Tem Casey is spearheading.
Okay.
And as part of that effort, we had our first workshop last night with council and staff, our directors, to think about planning for the future. And so we had a futurist come in. She's an economist. She really helps organizations with strategic foresight, thinking about the future. How ready are you? And how well are you keeping an eye on those trends in the future that may or may not impact your city, your operation, your organization. Sure. So we got together last night as a group to kind of go through an exercise to see how ready we are for 2050.
Right?
Yeah.
It was eye-opening, wasn't it?
It was.
And I think some people, when we say, hey, we're doing a strategic plan and we're going to look to the future 25 years ahead, does Novi need more parks? What does public safety look like? What do roads like? But they're not looking at even the bigger picture of what is the economy?
Right.
How does Novi fit into that, right? How would people have 25 years ago predicted, we talked about this at our table, you and I were at the same table, social media.
Right.
Or 25 years ago, goodness, we were still using bag phones in cars. You don't
I
even
remember the bag phone. I do remember it.
Your cell phone plugged into your cigarette lighter if you had one, and it was ginormous, right? It was a huge bag, like a big bag.
It was like a briefcase.
It was like a briefcase.
It was like in the backseat of our
so who would have predicted 25 years into the future that we all would be walking around with a computer in our hands,
Right. Well, and thinking about AI,
right?
And how that's going to impact the workforce, how that's going to impact how we deliver services, right?
So we talked about these things last night in a very intriguing way. A lot of the questions or the statements that provoked so much thought and discussion. And I know at all the tables, not just our table, but it made you kind of go, I don't I hadn't thought about how
Right.
that is going to impact the continued build out of Novi and how prepared we need to be as a city for that build out. And, you know, the discussion is, do you want to be reactionary? Do you want to be visionary and be planning for these, right?
Sure.
And that's what we're doing.
That is what we're doing. I think it's interesting because there are things that Novi does really well today. Are we still going to be able to do those things really well tomorrow, 10 years from now, 25 years from now, with the strategic planning effort we're undertaking? And I thought it was, to your point, very eye-opening, because a lot of the things, these trends that we focused on, a lot of them are external, right? They're out of our control. They're things that we can react to or we can plan for if we know they're coming. But it's different than thinking about, okay, well, how do we provide our services today and tomorrow? We know what we do really well. We know the talent pool we have, the resource capacity that we have, but there are other things coming down the pike that we can't control.
Right.
So we need to be aware of them, and that's going to impact how we pivot, right?
Yeah, I know when you say that, one comes to mind was the decreasing talent pool in healthcare professionals over the next couple decades. And our immediate thought is, well, that's not the city, right? You're like, well, how does it impact the city? Well, we have a major hospital in our city.
Right.
Does it impact the health and welfare of residents and business owners in Novi? And how do we, to your point, how can we prepare for that? How do we set Novi up to be a place that attracts that talent and makes people want to locate or, you know, practice medicine or treat or provide healthcare services in Novi, right? So it's things we need to think about. What attracts that, or what would assist in helping Providence, Henry Ford Providence now, attract that talent.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting because Novi is known for having a really high quality of life, right? That's why people move here. That's why people stay here. And so when you think about talent pools decreasing, you think about the potential of increased AI on the workforce, and you think about changing dynamics with, you know, whatever it may be. How does that impact what we do, to your point, to keep people here, to keep people moving in here? That's economic development, right? That's our brand. And so seemingly, you know, things that seem out of focus for us have really come into focus.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a very cool session. Unfortunately, given the makeup of it, we didn't televise it live. It was obviously an open meeting. We had a couple residents there, which was very cool to see their interest in the process. But we will be getting data. So anyone interested, we will be getting data from that session that we will share and look at next steps as to how next city council meeting, we're going to be awarding a contract to a consultant that will actually lead. Can you talk a little bit about the?
Yeah.
This was maybe the foundation or a little bit set the stage for the next step.
Sure. Yeah. So last night was really to kind of get people in the right mindset, because we're going into a process. We put out an RFP a couple months ago. We got 19 responses, which was just incredible. And through the long range strategic planning committee, we worked through those. We're down to 2 finalists. And so the committee is meeting tomorrow to make a recommendation that will go before council on the 10th on the agenda. And then once awarded, that's going to kick off the actual work of having someone come in and facilitate the process by which we take the data from last night, all of those trends that we have prioritized as being high impact, high certainty, and helping us translate that into a plan for the future with actionable goals and milestones and all of that.
And I think one of the important things to note is this won't be work that just the consultant and city council and your directors or your city team are doing. There's going to be an opportunity for the community to be involved as well. Like, what do they,
For sure.
What's their vision for Novi in 2050, right? So it was interesting. Rebecca last night said, you know, that's next generational. So those of you that are listening that have young kids, like, what would you want Novi to be in 25 years when they are out of college, they're looking for a place to live, et cetera?
Right. And part of the community engagement effort, we're going to hit all of those different groups. Like, we want to talk to the young kids in school. We want, like the entire gambit of ages, of demographics, because at the end of the day, this isn't, to your point, staff's plan or a certain council member's plan. This is really going to be a community plan. So getting that input is top of the list in terms of priority.
I'm super excited for it. We visited a community last year that I think went through, maybe 2 communities, actually. Both of them went through this process.
Yep. And
the outcomes for both of them, they're not, I think one of the key points is like, the plan isn't going to be done at the end of the year, early next year. And in 2026, 2027, we're here.
Right.
It is a 25-year plan that what is the vision and then how do we get there, right? One of the communities created an amazing city center, right?
Yeah.
Where City Hall relocated, not saying that's going to be done here, but I'm just saying there was a plan and it took, I think, 8 to 11-ish years for that all to come to fruition and all the puzzle pieces to come together, right? And then Olathe, I'm not sure where they were.
So interestingly, we just talked with our friends in Olathe just this week because they too created a long-range plan, a 25-year plan. They are at the 5-year milestone since they created that plan. And so they're having their check-ins to say, hey, are we on track? Do we need to make adjustments? So I kind of see Novi following a similar process, and that this plan is going to be audacious. I mean, 25 years, it's hard to plan next week sometimes, right? And so kind of backcasting, which is a term that MPT and I have just recently learned, is taking a large plan like that, a 25-year plan, and parsing it out into, 5-year chunks, making it a little bit more digestible and working backwards to say, okay, if we have a goal in mind for Novi 2050, what do we need to do today to start us off in the right direction to get there?
I love that. It's simplifying it. It's you want to lose weight. And when you say, I need to lose 50 pounds, it's like, oh my God, where do I start? But if you chunk it back, my goal today is for the next, year, let's lose 15. The next year. So I love
and
that.
How do we then,
what is the goal? But then looking back as to how you achieve and get there.
Right. And then you mentioned staff. So then internally, kind of getting back to our values, our commitment, how do we then arm ourselves to be agile and adaptable to the plan? And how do we then tie up to the plan in our department business plans, things that go before council, right? Everything will tie back up in some way. And so I think it'll be a great opportunity for us internally to kind of, reshuffle the deck a little bit and make sure that what we're doing is in ultimate alignment with our 2050 goals.
Super exciting. Anyone that's interested, we're going to have tons of information once we get the consultant in place for the 2050 plan. I'm sure we'll create a page or section dedicated just to this and how you can be involved, how you can share thoughts, how you can attend meetings, become part of focus groups, community initiatives, etc. It's super fun. It's super exciting. And I think a key takeaway is knowing Novi just doesn't want to be the Novi it is today, right? We want to continue to be the visionary leader, to be the community that's, ranked number one in this or that. And how do we ensure that is sustainable is through long range planning.
Absolutely.
So good stuff.
Yes.
Good stuff. Thanks for sharing. And
thank you.
Thanks for coordinating because it was super fun last night.
Good.
And so well spent that time together. I think we become reactionary in our daily lives. To spend those 3 hours or so together, just
slow it down.
Slow it down.
Yeah, slow it down. We learned about fast and slow thinking last night as well. So really being more methodical and intentional. So that's going to serve us well as we go into the process for sure.
Good stuff. Yeah. So more to come on that. Watch the city council meeting on Monday if you have an interest because we will be making an award hopefully.
That's the plan.
And then we'll be off and running this spring. And how long do you think that process will take? A good year?
Probably about 18 months. So we're looking into fall of 26.
Okay.
So
So, and be involved. We will come on again and share as more plans become solid as far as ways to be involved. But get involved. It's help create Novi's future, I think, is a big ask of us. And we'd love to have you involved.
Yes,
So
we sure would.
thanks for joining me. And until you hear me again on the pod, now
you
Novi.
Novi.
Take care.